Alrighty, hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Thursday to us all. Today was kind of a weird day. Markets ended up being in the red today. Bitcoin ended up being in the green. Ethereum was in the red today. Miners were in the red in the beginning of the day, and then they ended up in the green today, except for one. We'll talk about that. That's obviously BitDeer. They got shellacked today. We'll talk about that, what happened there. There's two news stories from them. Then we'll also take a look at Core Scientific is getting attacked by, I guess you could say, what do they call them? Oh gosh, there's a term for it. I'm drawing a blank on the term right now. Activist investors. By that, we also have some good news maybe on Bitcoin possibly bottoming out here. And I thought there was something else. Maybe not. Clarity Act. Clarity Act has a deadline now from Trump. So that's also coming up as well. So we'll take a look at all that. But we got to go through this. You guys know the drill. Full disclosure below that. And if you would be so generous and kind, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out. And let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin right now. So Bitcoin today actually squeaked out a green day, which was nice. It was up 0.83%. Not terrific, not fantastic. It was okay. Right, we were up a little bit here. We're still, like I said, we're still trading more or less sideways in the channel from certain highs to certain lows here. We're trading that session right now as it is. Clarity Act obviously is we're trying to get that passed through. There's obviously some contention going on there between the banks and the crypto space. Hopefully they get that worked out, and Trump has set a deadline for that. So that should be a good sign here if that gets passed, possibly in maybe even March, right? So we're in February right now, getting close to the end of February. March, if it gets passed in March, that would be great there. But like I said, markets were in the red for the most part. Russell was up a little bit here, 0.23%. Bitcoin today finished out the day also, like we talked about, being up 0.83%. Ethereum was actually down a little bit today. That one was down 0.35%. Miners, on the other hand, actually had a pretty good day overall. All of them started out in the red in the morning, and then they kind of came back up here. One of the things that I saw was maybe on Japan, their inflation rate came down. So maybe that was part of it, what drove things up. I'm not sure. I didn't see any other news that would have really spike these things. Maybe it's also Trump pointing out the Clarity Act, right? There's a deadline for those guys to work it out. Maybe that was part of it. Not sure. But Bitfarms was up a little bit, 0.97. BitDeer today was down a lot. It was down 17.38. It was even down like 20% at one point, 20% plus. Pulled back up a little bit there. Kango was up 7.25%. Nice little bounce there. This thing's obviously been pretty low here recently. Cypher was up also 2.46%. Cleanspark had a nice bounce today, 5.93%. CORZ was up 4.11. Hive was up 2.36. Hut 8 also up 2.32 there. IREN was up 2.88. I mean, you're seeing a lot of these guys kind of trading sideways here, right? Same thing with Mara, right? Mara was up 6.13%. And it's kind of trading sideways here the last week or so. Nibius was up 5.71. This one is a nice channel that's going up on it right now. We'll see if we can get past this maybe resistance here at $107. Riot was up 4.71%. Wolf was up a little bit, 0.59% there. Bitcoin holding companies, treasure companies were mixed. We had MicroStrategy being up. Galaxy, Block was down. Coin was up. Meta was down. Exodus was up quite nicely there, 5.47%. Nexon was down. Phoenix was actually down 5.86. Game was up a little bit there. Small miners also mixed. Annie was down quite a bit there today. This thing just continues to dive here. It reminds me of the movie that I watched here recently in the last couple of days, Down Periscope, if you guys recall that. I love that movie. But there's a scene in that where they just go dive. That's kind of what we're seeing here right now. Argo was up a little bit. Power was up as well a little bit, along with DMG. Mawson was down just a little bit, and Can was up 2.19% there. The Bitcoin miner ETFs were actually positive today. DGHI doing the best, being up 1.62%. Ethereum holding companies mixed as well. BBNR, Bit Digital were in the green, along with SBET and BTCS and Game were in the red there. Other companies that we track here, American Bitcoin was down again, 1.92%. This is kind of similar to what we've seen with, what was the other one there that we talked about? I can't remember now, but it was like one of the other ones that was down also. Wi-Fi was up, Open was up, Oracle was up, Soluna was up nicely, 7.13%. Bakkt was down a little bit, along with Ast. Fermi was up a little bit. Meta was up as well a little bit. Google was down. Amazon was up. Microsoft down. Nvidia was down. Tesla up a little bit. EOS being down, and New AI being up there. So that's kind of how the market has played out right now. If we look at Bitcoin production, or not Bitcoin, not production, but Bitcoin performance, we're still down 14.63% from February. A couple more days to go. We'll see where we end up at. I'm guessing it's going to be in the red unless something really changes here quick for our lovely Bitcoin there. As far as the ETFs for the Bitcoin here, how do those track right now? Yesterday we had 133 million outflows. Today we had only 1.7 million, with a couple of these not being reported here, especially IBIT there. So we might be in the positive depending on what IBIT reports for us here. News stories that we do have here. Something to think about here. The last 2 times Bitcoin going to zero spiked like this. It pumped like a beast within months. Google is the ultimate buy signal. So this is going by the Google trends there. And you can see the spike here that we're seeing, obviously, all-time high 100, February 26th. So searches for Bitcoin going to zero has spiked here. I mean, we haven't been this high. Never, well, it looks like in the last at least 5 years or so. Prior to that, we had a peak in Luna crash. FTX collapsed as well. And this time around, it's at an all-time high here. So, again, one of those little nuggets that might point us to the direction of saying this is the bottom. Maybe. Right? We'll see if that's the case. Next year also, we got Bitcoin is extremely oversold relative to liquidity. You can see that on the chart here. Another little tidbit that Bitcoin maybe has bottomed out here. And then we got this also. White House sets March 1st deadline to resolve stablecoin reward dispute and advanced crypto market structure bill Clarity Act per Fox Business there. So that's great that they're setting a deadline on it, because otherwise we'd be talking back and forth. The banks obviously are trying to protect their business. The crypto side of things is also trying to advance their business. So we're seeing that kind of play out there. Hopefully they get that resolved, or at least come to some kind of understanding. And right now I think the contention is around yield, right? How much yield should the crypto coins get there? The stable coins possibly as well, right? If anything, they should be getting a similar yield to the banks, right? Make it even. If the banks are getting a yield on money that they invest and things like that, so should the crypto side of things as well. Next here, we got this. The Clarity Act passing will finally give guidance to institutions that legally cannot buy Bitcoin today, which would be obviously great. We've heard a lot of people talking about that once the Clarity Act gets passed, that's going to usher in a wave of buying from a lot of companies potentially here. What it means for us here is, right, 40 trillion in U.S. pensions, 30 trillion in corporate and institutional treasuries, 7 trillion in insurance capital, 11 trillion sovereign wealth funds, 10 trillion in 401k and retirement plans, 100 trillion in RIA managed money. A 1 to 3% allocation equals trillions. Example, if just pensions and RIAs allocate 1%, that's 1% of 40 trillion plus 120, so basically would equal about 1.4 trillion in potential inflows. That would be great. For context, Bitcoin's entire free floating supply available on exchanges is well under 2 million right now. 1.4 trillion in new demand chasing 2 million in Bitcoin implies the price of 700,000 Bitcoin at a 2 million float, 350,000 at 4 million liquid float, and 1 million there if Bitcoin allocation reaches 2 to 3% over time. That's not hopium. That's simple supply and demand. It is. So if we do get the Clarity Act that gets passed, this could be ushering in a new wave of a bull run here for Bitcoin, possibly. Right? It all depends on how much is allocated for. We're hearing more and more people in places that are higher ups that have been recommending people, allocate somewhere between 1 and 3% of their portfolios into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies possibly. So that would be a good sign here going forward if that was just the case, right? We'll take 1%. If 1% is all we need, we'll take it. Eventually, I do think we're going to get to $1 million in Bitcoin, whether it's in the next 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it's going to be. I don't care. I'm holding on to what I have here, and we'll obviously celebrate when it does happen. All right, some of the news stories here. The big news story for BitDeer here that we have is they provided 2 basically press releases. First one is BitDeer announces proposed registered direct offering of Class A ordinary shares. And then the second one was this one here. BitDeer announces proposed private placement of 300 million of convertible senior notes here. So dilution, I guess is the name of the game here at least on this one here. So I was reading over this a little bit here. I wanted to figure out what was going on, and I played dumb. I played dumb with the AI here. I asked it, what does this mean? Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, and I actually loved the explanation here from Gemini. But here's what it means. So here's a 5-year-old version of what they are doing. They're selling shares. So think of BitDeer as a giant Lego castle. They're selling tiny Lego bricks called shares of that castle to people who already lent them money before. By buying these bricks, these people now own a little piece of the company. Okay, that's a great 5-year-old explanation. Trading old IOU notes for new ones. BitDeer had some IOUs promised to pay back money in 2029. They're asking those people, hey, instead of us paying you back later, do you want to buy some Lego bricks shares now? Okay, that's an easy explanation there as well. And then the capped call is obviously the insurance there. They are using some of the money to buy a special kind of insurance so that the value of their Lego bricks goes up really, really high. It doesn't cause problems for the company. Okay, so that's an easy explanation as well. And what will they do with the money? Well, they are going to obviously build bigger, make even faster computers for AI, build their own machines, but also pay off that debt that was due in 2029. These November 2029 promissory notes, right? So that's basically what's happening here. And in a nutshell, they're going to be diluting the shares. They're going to be giving them the shares if they go that route, and they're going to be done with it at this point. So it's dilution. That's why we saw the stock go down, 20% plus at one point in the day. It was down 17%. So it's just one thing after another that BitDeer has been doing here, and that's because they're burning through cash like crazy, right? The development, what is it called? There's a term for it. Research and development part of the company is obviously burning through a lot of cash to build out their own ASICs, and then other aspects of the business are also burning through it. So they need to shore up their balance sheet a little bit here, and this is one of those stop gaps here that they're going to be using here. So there's that, and then we have the next one here, which is obviously BitDeer announced a proposed private placement of $300 million of convertible senior notes. So they're paying off some notes with shares now. Then they're going to be doing it again for, when is it going to be in effect? 2032 here. So they're kind of pushing the can down the road a little bit here as well. But today they announced that it intends to offer, subject to market conditions and other factors, $300 million principal amount of convertible senior notes due 2032. BitDeer also intends to grant the initial purchasers of the notes option to purchase more within the 13 days of $45 million principal amount of notes. The notes will be general senior unsecured obligations of BitDeer and will accrue interest payable and semi-annually in arrears. Upon conversion, BitDeer will pay or deliver, as the case may be, cash, Class A ordinary shares, par value per share of BitDeer, Class A ordinary shares, or a combination of cash and Class A ordinary shares at its election. The interest rate, initial conversion rate, repurchase of redemption rights, and certain other terms of the notes will be determined at the time of pricing of those notes offering here. So we'll see what they actually get as far as interest rate and everything else when they get through this process here, and they'll report it at that time here. The use of proceeds will obviously will be a portion of the net proceeds from the notes offering together with the net proceeds from the registered direct offering described below, if consummated, to pay the cost of the capped call transactions and to pay the cash consideration for the concurrent note repurchase transactions, each as described below. BitDeer intends to use the remaining net proceeds from those notes offering for data center expansion, HPC, and AI cloud business expansion, ASIC-based mining rig development, and to manufacture those as well as working capital and other general corporate purposes. So the standard boilerplate that we've seen here in the space over the last 2 years or so when these guys are doing these convertible notes. Excuse me, I take a sip of my water. Throat's getting dry there. So we talked about obviously the capped calls. You guys know what that is, basically insurance there. They talked about here also the concurrent registered direct offering and notes repurchase transaction, which we just talked about. So that's part of it also. And hence the reason why the stock went down like crazy today. I was wondering what the heck was going on here today, and then I saw that come out, like, oh, geez. Okay, let's see where the stock actually ends up being by the end of the day here. And it did. I think what I saw was like down 15%, and then, yeah, it was way down worse at that point. So this thing hasn't been this low since going all the way back to, this is going back to April of last year. So we're way down from where we were, obviously. I mean, peaked at $27.80 here. We're down to $7.94. What does that actually mean percentage-wise? Well, if anybody bought in at $27.83, they are now down 71% on the stock as it is. That is painful. Not a great place to be here, but we've obviously seen a lot of these guys being down 40, 50% as well on the other side of things here, right? IREN's kind of faring probably as one of the best ones there, along with TeraWolf there, I think. This one's only down 45%. Wolf here is actually up from where it topped out in October, right? So it's actually reached a new high there. It's down a little bit. So that one's doing pretty good here. Let's take a look at Cypher as well. Cypher, I'm guessing, is going to be pretty close to what IREN is from the top here, more or less, to where it's at right now. It's actually doing a little bit better. It's only down 37%, but they're all like 37 or 30, 40, 50% down from the highs in October. And that's not only them, it's Bitcoin, other companies as well. They're all getting punished right now as it is. Okay, so there's that. Next here. I thought this was interesting here today. Core was actually up on the news today. I don't know if it was based on the news before that. It was just up with the other miners today. But we have somebody going after them, and that somebody is, well, CORZ Scientific here, but that somebody is 2C's Capital LP. They disclosed that they have now where is it at? I saw it here earlier, 6.7% of shares of the company of CORZ Scientific right now. And part of that deal here, as they have increased their positioning, they came up with a what do I want to call this? Probably a limited time pause in things. I think it's for like a year. And we can see that here in the, it wasn't a press release, it was actually an SEC filing here. So this is an entry into a material definitive agreement there. So on February 18th, CORZ Scientific, a Delaware corporation, entered into a cooperation agreement with 2C's Capital. Pursuant to the cooperation agreement, the company agreed to, 1, appoint one independent director following the execution of the cooperation agreement and prior to March 15th, 2026, and 2, appoint a second independent director prior to or as soon as reasonably practicable following the 2026 annual meeting of stockholders, but in no event later than September 15th of this year, and 3, appoint a third independent director prior to the 2027 annual meeting of stockholders, in each case in consultation with 2C's until 2027 annual meeting. The company will not increase the size of the board of directors in excess of 9 directors or decrease the size of the board of directors. As such, decrease would require resignation of one of the new directors without the prior consent of 2C's. The cooperation agreement also provides that one current director will not be nominated for re-election at the 2027 annual meeting. So it seems like 2C's is getting it's basically getting a third of the seats there on the company board, but they only own 6.7%. Okay, I mean, that seems like they're getting pretty sweet deal there, right? If they're trying to get 3, I mean, it's definitely not a majority there, but they still obviously don't own a majority of the shares. So if they were closer to like 33% owning the company there, then I could say, okay, you get 33 or you get 3% or 33% of the board there. But I think this is just an appeasement by the board and management of CORZ Scientific there to try to kind of hold them back from taking too many shares out on them. We saw this kind of similarly play out in a different way, though. We saw it with Riot trying to basically take over Bitfarms, if you recall, going back now a year and a half to 2 years now, going back to that. This time around, we have an activist investor that's trying to make changes in there. And maybe change needs to be done there because obviously we haven't heard anything from CORZ with regard to press releases since the last time they announced anything was, I think, back in October when the deal fell through with CoreWeave, right? After that, it's been quiet. Nothing's been going on there. Sure, could they be doing stuff in the background? Yes. Maybe they haven't finalized deals or things like that. Yes, that's a possibility there. But still, it would be nice to get at least some kind of update. Like, here's where we are with the CoreWeave build out. We're getting close to getting that finalized, starting to get revenue from that, right? Something to bring hopium to the stock there, I guess. But we haven't heard anything. So this is kind of where we are right now. So 2C's sees an opportunity to make changes, and maybe those changes are going to be for the good of the company and for the shareholders there. My dad is still holding on to a bunch of shares as of right now, but eventually, obviously, he's probably going to sell out a little bit as he's getting close to retirement. But that's still not going to be probably for another year or two from here. So we're both expecting, I would say expecting, we're both hoping that CORZ Scientific can continue on its AI trajectory, right? They've got a lot of stuff that they got to do for CoreWeave. And beyond that, we believe that they can still attract other customers as well on top of it, depending on the sites. So long term, I think the stock will do great still going forward. Short term, it's obviously been painful here, just like everything else has been. But in long term, things should be much better here. So that's kind of why my dad is still holding on to the shares there. Okay. 2Cs agreed to a customary standstill provision effective for 1 year period following the execution of the cooperation agreement, and voting commitments effective until 2027 annual meeting. The company and 2Cs also made customary representation and agreed to a mutual non-disparagement provision. So obviously they're not going to talk bad about each other, which is nice, which is fine, right? And that's probably the way it should be, right? One company shouldn't talk bad about the other company, right? It doesn't send a great message to investors or potential investors even at that point. So I think that's kind of like the gentleman's way to do it. I'm fine with that. I think that's okay. Okay. Other than that, here we have a departure of directors of certain officers, election of directors, appointments of certain officers. So basically, separately at the regular scheduled meeting of the company's board of directors held February 18th, Jordan Levy, the chairman of the board of directors, notified the company and the board directors that he will not stand for re-election at the 2026 annual meeting. His decisions not to stand for re-election was personal one and does not do any disagreement with the company there. Okay. I think that's also kind of the one that they always state there. I don't think I've ever seen any, I shouldn't say never, but at least in my lifetime, in my stock reviewing time frame, I haven't seen anyone that was worded like they're leaving on their own accord, right? There's no issues with the company. There's always been kind of the same kind of stuff there. But that is it. That's all I got for you guys on this stuff. So kind of interesting to see how this plays out. And we'll see if the board members that they choose there are going to be good ones. We'll cover when it happens there. But that's it. On that, we're going to also take a look at the latest short data we have on the miners here right now. This is updated as of 1:30, so it's about 2.5 weeks out. And it's always delayed a little bit here. Here's the current stats that we have on this stuff here. Marathon has a lot of shares obviously shorted here currently. 114 million, followed by TerraWolf 93 million, then Cleanspark 81 million, Bitfarms 66, Cypher 60 million, and then so on down the list here. You can see those. Percentage of average floated shorted here. TerraWolf is the most shorted there based on the average floated shares, 34%, Cleanspark at 32%, and Marathon at 30%. I would have thought Marathon would have been the top one here. I'm a little surprised by TerraWolf and Cleanspark, to be honest with you guys. Cleanspark has been great at operating Bitcoin mining, growth-wise and things like that. They're getting into AI as well. They've obviously done a lot of changes here. TerraWolf has executed fantastically when it comes to AI contracts, all that stuff. They've obviously gotten quite a few of those. They bought more sites. So I'm a little bit surprised that one's quite as heavily shorted as it is. Right, and then you got BitDeer being on 21%, Core at 19, Cypher at 19 as well, Hut at 17, Riot at 14, IREN at 13, Bitfarms at 12, Hive at 10, and Kango at 6.12 here. And then here's the number of shares shorted change from last time. So we did this about 2 weeks ago, last time. So from that time frame, the shares shorted in Marathon increased by 9.15 million there, Cypher 7+ million, Hive up just a little bit, 0.6. BitDeer up 0.5 and Kango up 0.33. And then we had a decrease here in Cleanspark 1.4, Hut 8 down 2.1, TerraWolf down 4.7 million, Core down 5.1, Riot down almost 7 million there, Bitfarms down 10 million, and IREN being down 10 million as well. So that has seen the highest decrease in the last 2 weeks on that one. Percent change of shares shorted from last time. So Cypher had a sizable increase there. 13.91% of shares. I'm not sure why they are shorting that one now more. I don't know if it's because they're just waiting on bad results for the quarterly results. That could be part of it. They haven't closed a new deal here recently. That might be part of it. The convertible notes that they did also, that might be a part of it. Marathon was up also 8.69% here. Hive up 2.84. BitDeer up 2.3. Cleanspark down 1.7. TerraWolf down 4.8. Core down 8.05. Hut being down 10.8, Riot down 12.55, Bitfarms down 13.2, and IREN down 21% or 20.4% there on it. And then as far as the price from 12 weeks ago, we've only got Hut being up 19, almost 20% there, Core up 5.6, and TerraWolf up 4.8, everybody else is down, with the biggest losers here in the last 12 weeks have been Kango down 41, Bitfarms down 38, Cleanspark down 34, along with Hive down 34, Marathon down 32, BitDeer down 24, Cypher down 19, and IREN down being 7, and Riot down 5.16%. 12-week short change here from 12 weeks ago. We got Cypher having a sizable increase in the shares shorted there, 38% up. Core up 21%, Marathon up 16, Hut up 15, IREN up 6. And then we had a decrease in these guys here, 2% in Hive. TeraWolf up down 7 along with Kango. Riot down 10%. Bitfarms down 12 along with BitDeer. And Cleanspark shares shorted here decreased by 31% from 12 weeks ago. Yeah, we haven't seen, I mean, you would think with the shares, the amount of shares shorted changed 31%. The stock would have done better in those last 12 weeks, but it hasn't. Right, Cleanspark in the last 12 weeks is down 34%, whereas Cypher is up 38%. It's only down 19%. So kind of two different worlds here on this. More than likely, I'm guessing it's driven by AI. Here is the historical shares shorted on these guys going all the way back to August there. You got BitDeer. You can see how that's played out. I mean, that's up a little bit, but not a huge change in that one. Bitfarms, obviously, huge spike back in October. It's been coming down ever since then, so that's kind of good to see that. Then we got Kango here. That has been increasing from 1.3 to 4 million there, so that is continuing to increase. Cypher started at 58, now it's at 60 million, so kind of flat, up a little bit, but more or less flat across the board there. Cleanspark had obviously quite a huge spike here in November, and then went up to, what was the high there? The high was probably 82.42 million, which was recent here. It's come down a little bit as well at this point. Core. See, Core is down from where it started out in August from 66 to 58. And then we got Hive here, started out at 10.3, it's up to 24, so that's doubled over that time span. Hut 8 was at 16.2, now it's 17.39. Pretty flat overall. IREN, a little bit of a roller coaster ride on this one. 27 million where it started out, got to 59, down to 40 now. So that's good to see there. Marathon has been also kind of, I would say, more or less flat, right? 104 million, now it's up to 114 million. So the share position is getting hotter on that one. And then Riot has actually been coming down here, surprisingly, from 815 at 75 million to 48 million there right now. And lastly here, we got TeraWolf. TeraWolf has also been kind of up and down here from 88 all the way up to 109. Down to 93. Now it's now at 93 as well. So it's been kind of up and down over the time frame as well. All right, that is it. That is all I got on that information right now, as it is. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm not sure if anybody's reporting tomorrow. For some reason, I was thinking Cyphers were reporting today, but I guess not. I didn't see anything come out from them at least. All right, so that's it. Spreadsheet, as always, will be available to the Patreon members. Thank you for everyone there for the continued support. Greatly appreciate you all there, and also obviously everyone here coming in. Greatly appreciate and love you all for coming in at these late hours as well. Okay, let's get into Q&A here. We'll call it a day at that point. We'll see what you guys have questions on. We'll go over all of it as always, like we always do. This is going to take me a little bit of time here, but we'll get through it all. All right, let me scroll up here and we'll work our way down. Let's see, what do we got here? We got, okay. Okay, Hakan, I can't pronounce it, but Hakan. Hi, can you kindly list the miners by current and future gigawatt capacity? Regards. Okay, we can do that. We'll go through each one here really quick here. This is we're going to look at megawatts potential or pipeline for them as well. Okay, so here's Bitfarms. We got them at 410 megawatts right now. Megawatts potential for them is about 2 gigawatts right now. Kango is at, we don't know what's going to be their potential there. Megawatts pipeline is 50. They're currently at 50 megawatts what they own, so not much growth there. Cypher, currently at 507 megawatts. Operational pipeline getting in them to 3.4 gigawatts. Cleanspark is at 1.4 gigawatts right now. Not all of that is operational, but they're targeting a 3 gigawatt pipeline down the road here. Core, we're not sure. They're currently, I believe, at 1.4, but their megawatt pipeline was 2.3. Like I said, we haven't gotten anything from them since like October. Hive is 540. They haven't really provided much as far as what they're looking to grow. I think they're going to be increasing by like 100 megawatts later on this year to add more Bitcoin mining machines for them. Hut 8, we have them. Let me see here. I don't have the megawatts for them. Why don't I have the megawatts? I need to put that in. Okay, so I'll have to check on Hut 8. I know Hut 8 has quite a bit of growth as well, probably above 2 to 3 gigawatts, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. IREN is at currently 810 megawatts. Their current pipeline is 4.5 gigawatts. And then we got Mara here. Excuse me. Mara is at 1.1 gigawatts. Their pipeline is about 3 gigawatts. Nibius, I'm not sure if I have that data on it. This might be, yeah, this is from IREN that I copied it over, so don't go by that. That one doesn't count because I'm still doing research on that one. And then Riot here is at 1.2 gigawatts right now. Their pipeline is about 2 gigawatts. And then TeraWolf here, last one, is currently at 510 megawatts. They're looking to get to about 2.8 gigawatts right now. Okay, so there's all that. Let's go back to Q&A. Let's see, SK asks, can you please check charts between the 8th September to 13th of August? All miners ran during this period. What was the reason Soluna went 8x? I think a lot of the stuff was based on the AI potential for these guys. And we saw Soluna run up like crazy. We saw, obviously, Bitfarms run up like crazy. And a lot of these guys were just catch-up plays, it seems like. Like some of the stuff was getting rotated from some of the other miners potentially into some of these other ones, right? People were seeing how those guys were running up, and they were looking at the next tier lower, right? As far as current megawatts, future potential for them, right? They're looking at those, and then those ran up like crazy because they were also very cheap, right? There were some of these guys were like $1 or $2 or even sub $1, easy to manipulate, easy to pump, and that's kind of what we saw happening there. And I talked about it at that point. I'm like, this just looks like a manipulation, pump and dump potentially, and kind of what it played out to be. All right, Benny, what do you think of the current price of BitDeer there? It's down definitely quite a bit there. It might come down a little bit more. Obviously, their results for the quarterly results were not great. They're not selling that many of their ASICs too, which I'm a little bit surprised on that. It might fall down a little bit more, I think, on that one before it bottoms out. So maybe another, $1 or $2 before it bottoms out, I think. Okay, Drago says Nibius the data center king. Might be. I'm looking into. Obviously, I'm doing research on them right now as it is. I'll give you guys my thoughts on it. Maybe I'll get it done for tomorrow. If not, I'll do it on Sunday. Let's see. Space. I can't pronounce that. Hi, said, but the BitDeer dip. Okay. Alexander says BitDeer down 50% down the last month. Yeah, it's been painful for them. Thanks for all your efforts. Hope the basement gets done on budget. Yeah, it's never going to be on budget. I was trying to keep it as low as possible of the expenditure that I would have to shell out, basically. But, floors cost, everything costs. I mean, the drywall itself is going to cost $10,000 to get done. I am in no shape to do drywall, nor do I want to do drywall because that is a pain. I would rather pay somebody to do that and save myself the headache and the misery on that point. But, yeah, we're getting close. Electrical is done for the most part, the rough-in. I'm finishing up some other things that I need to run, like Cat 5 or Cat 6 cables for my data lines. What else am I running? Speaker wires for my surround sound system for where the TV is going to go. I'm running that. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to be able to actually insulate, put insulation in. And once that's done, we'll get drywall. So that should be happening within like 2 to 3 weeks here. So that'll be good. John says, hi, Seb. Thanks for all you do. You're very welcome. Thank you for coming in. Rob, said back to my question yesterday, what are the metrics that give good earnings for AI HPC data centers? Obviously, growth, right? Customers getting attracted as well, getting new customers. That's going to be a big thing there. And also, what is the profit margin on it? That's going to be another one that's, you're going to want to keep an eye on that. .dev here. Hey, Seb, hope you are doing well. I want to ask you, where should I look if I want to bet on big data centers and power? I believe that AI will only get bigger from now on. Is there stocks you can recommend looking into, or is miners what should be betting on? I would say miners, I think, would be a better play. You can also look at the power generation companies. Later on in the next 3 to 5 years, we could see big plays in SpaceX for them doing data centers in space. Batteries is another one, right, to balance the grids and things like that. You can look at those things. Power, like I said. And who else? Obviously, I would say like the four large language model providers, which is Google, Grok, was it Perplexity, right? Is the other one there? Who else? OpenAI, those guys. Keep an eye on those as well, because they're the thing with those is it's very interesting to me. If they can get to super intelligence with the AI that they're generating from the large language models, and they make them obviously recursive, smarter, and all that stuff. If they can get to super intelligence on those things, and can we then see those AI models start to come up with new scientific materials, new cures for diseases, those types of things. If they start doing those things, oh my gosh, those companies could be worth, tens to, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars potentially, depending on what they're able to come up with. So that's something to also keep an eye on there. All right, Sarah says, my God, we need to get moving. This is ridiculous. My IREN Cleanspark portfolio is back to where it was last September. Yeah, it's been rough here again. Thank you, CD, as well for the likes there. Daryl, Ola Seb, what would you buy more BitDeer at this beaten down price? I would probably wait for maybe a little bit more of a dip before I would think about buying it. They have a lot of growth, but man, they just, I don't know if going with their own ASICs was the right decision to do that. And the reason I say that is because it costs money, right? Research and development into that. How much are you actually saving in the long run by building your own, where you could have buying from Bitmain potentially? I'm not sure. Maybe somebody has run the numbers on that. I have not. But when you look at their research and development and obviously what they're getting in, they're getting good machines, obviously, but they're also not selling that many. So I would have, that's one of the knocks that I can say on the ASIC side of things is, when you see sales for Bitmain, you're seeing sales going to, hundreds of thousands, to hundreds of thousands of machines being sold to a single customer. We've seen probably nowhere near that amount from BitDeer right now. So I would have liked to have seen more push on that, getting this stuff out to customers as well. That way you can drive down your cost also, because if you have the volume for it, it brings down the cost and everything else for you because you got more volume. So yeah, I don't know. That them being Singapore based, also not being in the United States, that might be a detriment to them. Maybe not. Obviously, the stock did go up to $27 here recently. It's obviously come back down here, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit a couple times here with the quarterly results, and then obviously the dilution. It's just one thing after another that's driving the stock here down lower. Can they turn things around? Yeah, they could possibly turn things around. And right now, would it be a good time to buy in? I would say dollar cost average into it, because I think it might still dip a little bit more here until they actually get this priced out, and also depending on what kind of interest rate they get, right? If it's a nice interest rate, okay, maybe things are not as bad, but if they get a high interest rate, that's obviously they're being seen as more risky, which obviously at that point the stock could also go down on that. So something to think about there. This question is, BitDeer buy now. I am down 35% of my shares. Do you have any confidence in them? They have a lot of megawatts going forward. They have a lot of growth as well, but they got to fix some things here short term, and that give confidence to the shareholders and investors there as well. Rob says buy more Hive and Bitfarms. Okay. Mark says BitDeer is killing me. I have a small allocation. What a waste. See, Mark says, do you think they have a future? I'm down a lot. I do think they have a future, but again, I'm not sure. Right now, it seems like the detriment to them is not being United States based. They're based in Singapore, right? I've said this about the alleged connection to China there as well, right? Does that play into why their ASICs are not selling as well as Bitmain's? It's China too, but I don't know. Yeah, it's tough to say. The other part that's kind of played into it also was the lawsuit from their neighbor in, I think it's Clarington, Ohio, right, where they have like 570 megawatts potential to build out an AI data center. There's a lawsuit going on with them there, so things are kind of like at a pause. There's just a lot of things that are happening right now. A lot of things need to get resolved, I think, for the stock to go up higher here. It could be in a dumpster for a while until things resolve. Roger, when Moon, I don't know. Hopefully sooner than later. Steve says, peace out, have a great evening. We're thanking you. Well, thank you for that, and I hope you have a great night. Sweet dreams there. John says, CNBC and review mentioned stocks in every sector are overvalued. Market over the last 3 years is up 75%. I saw Google and Amazon today holding huge cash positions. Okay. Dozens of stocks, 30% as down 30% as traders aren't buying GDP and PCE data tomorrow morning with option expiration day. Yeah, we have that as well. We'll see how that plays out. Let's see, .dev, you mentioned miners. Which can you recommend for data centers, IREN Cipher, or is there others? Those are the best ones, right? IREN Cipher. You also have TeraWolf, which has been doing really well. I mean, you see the stock's still going up, so they're doing actually really good. They're buying up sites, they're getting more megawatts, and they've had actually pretty good deals come through for them as well for customers. That's another one. Going after that, then you're kind of going into the territory of potential with Cleanspark. They have a lot of sites. They have a great sites in Atlanta, Georgia area that could possibly be used for AI as well. And they have the space to build out. Bitfarms also, right, the Washington site that they're building out, plus the Pennsylvania sites that they have there. After that, we're looking at also Hot 8. Those are the ones I'll be looking at. All right, Victor's question, would you buy MicroStrategy if it goes down to $80 to $100 range? Probably not. Could it bounce back up much higher? Yes. But the reason I love the fact that they're buying Bitcoin, like I always say, but I'm just not sold on the fact that they should have a huge premium to where Bitcoin price is, right? So they always look at the MNAV on that. I don't think they should be getting MNAV higher than maybe like 1.3, and when Bitcoin's actually running up quite nicely. When Bitcoin's kind of flat going down, they should be probably at like an MNAV of 1, right, more or less. So for that reason, I would not be buying, but I have not bought into it since they started doing this stuff here. .dev, another question. Now that IREN is moving away from being a Bitcoin miner, will that mean its price won't be affected by the price of Bitcoin anymore? In other words, if Bitcoin falls, it won't fall too. Okay. So you're talking about the correlation there between the two. I think some of the minor stocks have already decoupled from Bitcoin in a sense, because if you look at the performance over last year, a lot of these guys were up, over 100%, 300%, 400% even, where Bitcoin was actually down like 9% for the year. So they've already decoupled from that regard, but you're seeing anything that has to do with software, anything that has to do with AI, obviously been beaten down here recently. They're a part of it as well. But you've seen other companies like Cleanspark, Bitfarms, BitTBT obviously get beaten down a little bit more because they don't have those contracts for AI, or they're at least working on those things, but they haven't gotten those. When they do, I think they'll perform better. So yeah, that's long-term wise, if they completely decouple from Bitcoin, where they stop mining completely, maybe not even completely, I think if the revenues are a much smaller portion for Bitcoin than AI, then they should be not thought of as a Bitcoin miner at that point, or at least a very small percentage. So yes, I would think that they would trade differently compared to Bitcoin, but they've already, in my opinion. Let's see here. EDB says, you're right. CORZ have been awfully quiet for a long time. The earnings report will be either terrible or great. Yeah, so that'll depend greatly on, have they started up the sites for CoreWeave, right? And are they actually generating revenue from that in Q4, which I doubt was the case here. And then their obviously Bitcoin mining side of things was just revenues were coming down every single quarter for them. They haven't changed out any machines there or anything. So that's going to continue to come down, and obviously their costs are still somewhat high. So I'm not expecting a great report from them as well. Victor says, do you think what Mike Alfred mentioned on X about 13 days to Cypher deal, which will next, could it be true? Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, he's been pretty close on some of the other ones that he's mentioned, them getting deals. I would love to see it. I'm sure all of you would as well, but I'm not sure. I don't have any background information or any fly on the wall information, unfortunately. If trades, do you see IREN hitting $80 soon? If so, how high do you think is possible? Okay, so if they get another deal, I think 80 is definitely a possibility there. Depending on the size of the deal that they get, we could see them going up much higher here. They have a lot of megawatts. A lot of megawatts are also coming online this year. I think it's 1.4 gigawatts coming in from Clearwater, right? Clearwater 1. That's going to be happening in April. Obviously, you have to build out for it. But if you get a contract in there for somebody for, 500 megawatts or 1 gigawatt or something like that, that's going to jump the stock price up quickly there. That we could go past $100 at that point. I think they should be over $100 right now as it is with their current annual run rate by the end of the year, which they're targeting it to be 3.4 billion. Right, it should be higher from where it is on that one. Rob, so who is that guy Bitfarms had hired who had the big ties to Amazon? Maybe do a deep dive on him for your podcast. Yeah, there was a guy he was brought on for the board, I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was for the board member there. They brought him on. So again, one of those things where he has had experience or worked at Amazon data centers. That's something that might help him out for the Pennsylvania sites, I think, maybe. Because contacts, people know people, right? That helps out. But yeah. Let's see, Rogue Koala here. Gosh, everyone dumping BitDeer sounds like Bitfarms about a year ago. People need to be patient. I would agree with you there, but it's kind of self-inflicted wounds right now on them. Well, maybe not self-inflicted, but it's definitely been one bad news event after bad news event for them here, at least within the last, I would say, probably a month or two. So it hasn't been worked out great. BitDeer has wrecked my position, but I can't help but think it's a great opportunity. They are close to an HPC deal. They mined 183 or so BTC last week. That's going to be huge when we are at 200,000 Bitcoin. Yeah, when Bitcoin gets to that, yes. They'll be generating definitely a lot. I think they're the largest self-Bitcoin miner right now as it is. I think they've probably surpassed Marathon for that. Not really sure where Marathon's at because they don't report either monthly. But they're either right there with Marathon or they've surpassed Marathon right now as it is. But they do have a lot of potential. Again, but I keep saying, right, not being in the United States or not being, what do they call it? It's basically where you're based, right? If you're not based in the United States, that might be a little bit of a detriment to them there. Not sure, but the growth, they definitely have a lot of growth potential for them. Let's see, every miner tanks on convertible notes. IREN did 2 billion. Yep, that is true. That's on SDRC, currently paying out 11.25 dividend. That one looks appealing there because on the dividends they're paying out. That's the only reason I would probably get into it if I was going to do anything with MicroStrategy would be that, or strategy now. All right. KAI, I can't pronounce that. Don't doubt their execution. They proved themselves with the XH growth. Yeah. That's one of the things I'm not doubting them. It's just can they remedy some of the other issues that they have, right, with the customer, not the customer, the neighbor next door to them at Clarington, Ohio. Can they remedy that somehow? Not sure what that dispute is even about. Can they remedy that and actually move forward with their AI potential there? That would be great to see if they can cut some of their costs as well. Can they sell some more ASICs to our customers? I think those things would be great and would definitely show the stock up at that point. All right. Rogue says, when BitDeer hits 100 people will regret not buying in at 7 chill. People hold BitDeer. You might be right there, might get to it. I have a harder time thinking that we'll get that high, especially as they're diluting here, right? And they've been diluting quite a bit. How much have they diluted since last quarter? Let's take a look at BitDeer here recently. BitDeer dilution. They didn't report their numbers here, so I'm not sure. Or no, they did. 268 million here shares. They increased that by about 20 million. Sorry, not 20 million. 60 million shares from the prior quarter. So it's definitely a sizable amount of dilution there as well. The prior year in Q4, they had 165 million. So basically 100 million shares were added the past year, right? Dilution, costs, things like that. They got to get those things under control, or at least sell a lot more of those ASICs to then offset your research and development costs. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. All right. Ron says, hi, Seb, any good BTC movie or documentaries you suggest? Gosh, there's a couple of good movies on Russ Ulbricht, right? The movie there. Can't remember what it's called, but that was really good. On Bitcoin, who else was there? What was the other movie there? There were 2 movies that I've seen on Bitcoin. I'm trying to blank on the other one. Ross was one. There was also another one. There's a couple of documentaries on Bitcoin as well. If you search on YouTube, you'll be able to find them. Just type in Bitcoin documentary. You'll be able to find those. Trying to think what else. Those are the only ones I can think of right now, at least in my head. If I actually look through my history, I could probably find it as well. The one that I actually liked was the one, was it Stupid Money or something like that? That was the one on GameStop. That one was a great movie as well. Just gives you kind of sense of what happens in the market sometimes at that point as well. But we've cut up to all the questions here. We're going to call it a day. We're going on almost 11 o'clock here, so good time to end it. All right, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. We'll obviously talk about it at that point. All right, let's see here. Hold on. Dev says I missed this question here. Let me see. Oh, sorry about that. Let's see here. Last question for me. If I had to start a portfolio now and my focus is data centers and power grid, which 2-3 stocks should I hold? Not financial advice, of course. I just want your idea. Okay, so if you're going to start a portfolio now and your focus is going to be on data centers and power grid I haven't covered yet as far as deep research into those companies, but we've obviously seen a lot of the power generators are going up quite nicely here, at least recently. The data center ones, I can say, at least the ones that I have high conviction in right now are IREN, Cypher, then Cleanspark, followed by Bitfarms at that point. And we're starting to look into like Nibius as well right now. They've been doing pretty good here recently. After that, Applied Digital, you got also Galaxy Digital as well. They're building out the Helios facility. So there's another one to kind of keep an eye on that one. I think they have a 2 gigawatt potential there, possibly. So those are the ones that I would look at, right? Plus the other players that are out in the space also. But yeah, I have high conviction. I think IREN is probably going to be the best one, potentially. Could be wrong, but I think that's going to be, like the model candidate there. Jimmy says, said you never liked Wolf. I've been praising Wolf here recently. Their execution has been fantastic when it comes to, one, they bought the new sites, which I thought was great for them to do. They've gotten deals, obviously, as well. They've done a great job recently. In the past, I wasn't too happy with them. I wasn't too happy with the management there, and they're doing much better here. So I'll give them that, right? Definitely missed on that one, but you can't get them all. You're right. You're not going to score 100% all the time. Some things you do like, some things you don't like, and sometimes the things that you don't like outweigh the things that are good with the company. Then you do get into it, and you miss out on sometimes. So, but that's okay. All right. Dev, okay, thanks a lot. You're very welcome there. Sadie, thank you as well. Hope you guys have a great night. And like I said, we'll talk about whatever happens tomorrow. Hopefully things start improving for us and we've maybe bottomed out in Bitcoin here. Fingers crossed. We'll see. All right. Love you all. Hope you guys have a great Friday. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll get back into it tomorrow at that point. All right. I'll see you guys then. See ya. Bye.